This conference will now be recorded.
So in the last class, we have seen about how to go with Angular directives, Angular forms, and Angular routing. So today let us go with one more and very important module of Angular, that is Angular HTTP client module. Angular HTTP client module. This is the very important one. So whenever we go with projects now, we make use of this HTTP client module compulsory, because the backend we develop by using Java technology, or it may be with the .NET or PHP. So what are the services we create in different technologies, the backend technologies? To access that REST APIs, we make use of this HTTP client module. So you can say HTTP client module of Angular is used to invoke the services which are running on the server side, like it may be with Java technology, or it may be with the .NET, or it may be with PHP, like that. Right? Like example, let us suppose if you are having a service running on Java server, and the service is, the REST API is http://localhost:8080, the Tomcat server location, and the API /employees/all employees. This is the REST API what we have created, and this API will connect to employee table, and it's going to return all the records present in employee table. So it's going to return the list of employees present in employee table. So this is the service what we have created using Spring Boot, the REST API. Now we want to invoke this service. How to invoke this service is by using this HTTP client. So create object of HTTP client. So we are creating object of HTTP client. So HTTP client, it's an object of class HTTP client. Now by using this HTTP client, using get method, we can invoke this service. Using get method, we can invoke this service. That's it. So we are having other methods too, like post, put, delete, all those things we'll discuss in the project directly. So here I'm just going with http client.get. So by using get, because read operation means get here, insert means post, update means put, delete means delete. So that we discuss directly in the project. Now using this HTTP client object, call the method get and pass the REST API. So this will connect to your API, and this will connect to your database table and returns the list of records present in the table. So it's going to return list of employees. Whatever the list of employees we are getting to Angular, Angular will take care of doing the presentation part. So the business logic is done in backend, and front end is taken care by Angular here. Now, let us understand this with the complete example application. So initially, let us go with Java side, means backend. Backend, server side, this one. So first of all, let us create one table, that is database side. Create a table employee in MySQL. At MySQL prompt, create a table employee with employee ID. Let us go with the varchar of 10. Then employee name, varchar of 10. Then designation, varchar of 10. Then salary, int of 4. Okay, so let us create this table. Open MySQL. Then password is root. Use Java 11, our database name. Now create the table. create table employee with employee ID varchar of 10. Let us first of all check whether table already present. Let us drop it. Drop table employee. Yeah, not there. So let us create table employee with employee underscore ID varchar of 10, name varchar of 10, designation varchar of 10, then salary int of 4. Yeah, so we have created the table. Now let us insert the records into the table. Insert the records into the employee table. At MySQL prompt, let us insert some records. Insert into employee values like 111, the name, then designation, then salary. Like that, let us go with some more records. So we are adding some records here. Right? Now let us insert these records into the table. So take one record. So we are just inserting some records into the table. So we are inserting totally 3 records. So if you say select star from employee, so we are having totally 3 records present in the table. So this is the Java side, that is backend in database related. Now the next one, let us create one REST API which is going to connect to this employee table and pull out all the records from the table, and it's going to return the list of employees. That is the API what we are going to create. So what is the need of going with REST API? I should be able to access from some other server, means from Angular I should be able to connect to your REST API and access the employee details. So communicating between the different applications we do by using REST APIs. It's mainly for distributed applications. Distributed means communicating between the different applications running in different servers. Now, so for this, let us create, let us choose a new workspace, Spring Angular in STS. Let us open STS. Now, in that, once we open STS, let us create a Spring Starter project. Spring Starter project. Let me go with the name Spring Angular project in STS. So here let us go with the Spring Angular, the workspace in our project folder. Then in that, create a Spring Starter project, Spring Angular. So let us create the Spring Starter project. Go with the name Spring Angular project. Then type Maven Java version 17 group. Let me say Spring Angular. These values are our wish. Artifact, it takes the name Spring Angular project package. Let us say com.spring.angular. Then click next. In project dependencies, add the dependencies like Spring Web, then Lombok, then Spring Data JPA, then MySQL driver. So these dependencies we are adding into the project. Click on finish. Now, let me document. Create a Spring Starter project, Spring Angular project. So for that, click on File, New Spring Starter project. Name, we are giving Spring Angular project. Type Maven, Java version 17. Then group, Spring Angular, these values are our wish. Artifact, it takes the name, Spring Angular project. Then package, let us say com.spring.angular. Then click next. Then in project dependencies, add the following and click finish. Spring Web, Lombok, Spring Data JPA, and MySQL driver. So already we have discussed all these things. Now the next step is, once we create the project, let us create one entity class. Okay, so let us work in only one package here. Just we are learning the example. So let us work in this package only. Entity classes, repositories, controllers. Let me create everything in same package. Okay, just to save the time. So in reality, we go with the different packages for entities, repositories, controllers. Okay, so I'm just going with the same package here for all the things. Not suggested. Now, create an entity class employee in the package. Employee dot. See, under the project, you can see src main Java. In this, you can see the package com.spring.angular. In that, let us create an entity class employee. Now, go with the properties like private string employee ID, private string name, private string designation, then private int salary. Now apply the Lombok annotations. What are Lombok annotations we are having? At the rate no args constructor, at the rate all args constructor, then at the rate data for setters getters. These are Lombok annotations. Now go with the JPA annotations, Hibernate annotations like at the rate entity to mark this class as the entity class, and at the rate table to change the name of the table. I'm going with employee here. Then mark this employee ID as primary key at the rate ID and change the column at the rate column name equal to emp underscore ID. Right? These are JPA or Hibernate annotations. Right? Import the respective packages. So this completes our entity class. Now, once we create this entity class, let us create the repository. Create a repository interface employee repository in com.spring.angular package. employee repository. So right click on this package and say new interface, employee repository. Now, so mark it as a repository. How to mark it as repository? What annotation we have to use? Above interface @repository. Now make this interface extends JPA repository. Hope you remember all these things. JPA repository, and provide the entity class name and primary key. Data type is in our case string. That's it. Import the packages. This completes our repository. So no need to write any methods inside your interface, and no need to create any implementation class for this interface. That is the advantage of Spring Data JPA module. Now, moving to the next one, very important one. Create a service class, employee service in com.spring.angular package. Employee service. So in the package, right click and say new class employee service. So mark it as a service class @service. Now in this service class, let us go with the property employee repository. Employee repository, right? Just if you press like this, employee repository, control space, just if you press control space, we get the suggestions. Select this employee repository, press enter key. That's it. Okay, just saving the time while typing. Then make it as auto. See here, if you just press control space, we get the suggestions here. Okay, then now create the method public list employee get all employees. We are creating a method get all employees. This method return employee repository dot find all. So whenever we call the method employee repository dot find all, which connects to our employee table, because we have annotated this employee class as employee table here, we are referring to this table, which connects to employee table, pull out all these records, and that records will be written in the form of list employee here. It returns in the form of list employee. Right? This is our service. Clear this service class, all of you? So just making the codes very simple. That's the main beauty of Spring Boot. Less burden to the developers. Now, the next important step, controller class, which is going to invoke this service. Create a REST controller class. Create a REST controller class, employee controller in com.spring.angular package. This is the major piece of code. Employee controller. Right click on package and say new class employee controller. Now mark this class as the controller class. How to mark it as controller? Since we want to use this class in some other server, so from other server we should be able to enter into this class. So we have to go with REST APIs, means we have to annotate with REST controller. And one more annotation here, a new annotation now. See, we are going to get the request from where? From Angular, and Angular application will be running in which location? http://localhost:4200, right? From this we are going to get the request to this REST API. Now for that, we have to use the annotation. We have to inform from where we are going to get the request. So how to inform is by using the annotation @cross origin. Cross origin, origins equal to, this is the location from where we are going to get the request. So this is the new annotation what we are lent here. Now one more annotation @request mapping to enter into this class request mapping API/employees. API/employees. Now in this, go with the property employee service and inject it automatically. Now create a method public list employee get all employees list. We are creating a method get all employees list. Now by using this employee service, we call the method get all employees. So by using service, we are invoking the method get all employees goes to service class. This method will get invoked and this is going to return the list of records present in your employee table in the form of list employee. So that only we are collecting here. Now how to enter into this method? Get mapping. Since it is select command get mapping, we are saying all employees. That's it. Okay. Now, so what is the API to access this service now? REST API to access employee service. What is that? http://localhost:/API/employees/all employees. So API/employees will enter into the class. All employees will enter into this method, returns all the records present in your employee table in the form of list employees. Clear this controller class? Any questions? Right? So very important, practice this. So this will be the base for our projects. Now, in the next step, we have to update this application.properties file. Update application.properties file of src main resources folder. Database connections. Application.properties. Under resources, you can see application.properties. Update this file. Go with the database connection properties like spring.datasource.driver class name. What is that? com.mysql.cj.jdbs.driver. Spring.datasource.url jdbc mysql // localhost 3306 / our database name Java 11. Spring.datasource.username root spring.datasource.password in our case root. Then the JPA Hibernate annotations spring.jpa.properties.hibernate.dialect. So what is the dialect here? org.hibernate.dialect.mysql dialect. Then spring.jpa.hibernate ddl auto update. The table is already created. Spring.jpa.showSQL as true. So these are our database connections and JPA properties. Now the final step, run Spring Angular project as Spring Boot app. Right click on Spring Angular project and say run as Spring Boot app. Right? So I'll be sharing all the programs of this project, Spring Angular project.zip file. Right? Complete all the source codes I'll be sharing in the form of zip file. Now run this project, right click on project and say run as Spring Boot app. Right? So the Tomcat server started on port number 8080. Now the application is live now. Now this completes our backend part. Got it everyone? The backend side. Now, coming to the front end Angular side. This is our front end. This is very important front end part. Now for this now we have to create one service. Okay, so as we are going to make use of HTTP client module, so first of all we have to add this module in app.module.ts file. The first step, update app.module.ts file by adding HTTP client module. app.module.ts. So go to your Angular. So for that, let us go to our folder. We are working in Java Online 11 Angular project. This is our project folder. Open in command prompt. Now to open this project folder in Visual Studio Code, what command we have to use? Code dot, right? Code dot. Now we have to come to this app.module.ts file. In this app.module.ts file, since we are going to make use of HTTP client module, so how to add that? Under imports. Under imports, we need to add here say comma, under imports, say comma, HTTP client module. Select this, press enter. Right? Then, now the next step is create a folder service in app folder. Now, create a service class http-client.service.ts in service folder. Create a service file. Let me say it as service file http-client.service.ts in service folder. This is the major important file. http-client.service.ts. This is the very important one now. So in Angular, under app folder, let us create one new folder. Right click and say new folder service. Then in this service folder, create a new file. Just say new file here, and let us go with the name http-client.service.ts. Okay, we can say it as a service here. So service will take care of the business logic. Okay, so directly I'm creating a service file http-client.service.ts. Now here start writing the code. Here let us create a class. Let us create a class employee with the properties matching with your entity class here. It's matching with our entity class, this one, employee ID, name, designation, and salary. So in the constructor, or you can create the properties. Public employee ID, type string, public name, string. Okay, so let us create in constructor so that no need to assign the values. So in the constructor, we are going with the properties employee ID, name, designation, and salary. Right? Just we are going with these properties here. Just not semicolon, comma. Okay. No. So we are creating a class employee with this 4 properties: employee ID, name, designation, salary, matching with your entity class. Now let us create one. Let us create a class. Understand carefully. Let us create a class HTTP client service. We are creating a class HTTP client service. Then in the constructor, we are going with a property HTTP client. HTTP client, it's of type what? HTTP client here. I said no, by using HTTP client only, we can invoke the service running on Java server. So that's the reason we are creating object of which one? HTTP client here. Now by using this HTTP client object only, we can invoke the service. Now in this, let us create a method get employees. So in this method, what we should do? We should invoke this service. Right? This is the service what we want to invoke. So let us copy this, come to Angular. So this is a service what we want to invoke. How to invoke is we have to select this return this dot HTTP client dot get employee. So the data what you are going to get, what it's going to return the list of employees. That list of employees we want to collect into employee array. So in the case of TypeScript or JavaScript, we are not having the concept like collections. So whatever the list of employees we are getting, we are going to store it in the form of employee array. We are going to store it in the form of what? Employee array, and invoke this service now. Invoke this service. That's it. So what we are doing here in this method, see, whenever we call the method get employees of HTTP client service class, by using HTTP client using get method, we are invoking the REST API. So this is going to connect to table, return all the records present in the table in the form of list. So whatever the list it's returning, we are storing in the form of employee array. Right? So that is the use of this get employees method. Now the next important step. Here, let us create one component. So what are the list of records we are getting? A component need to collect that employee data and display the data in tabular format. So for that, let us create one component, create a new component, employee, ng generate component, employee. So here the important programs are employee.component.ts, employee.component.html. Now, let us create this component. So at your prompt, ng generate component employee. Now expand this employee, and here the important files are employee.component.ts, employee.component.html. Now come to this employee component class. Now in this let me say here implements on init, means on initialization. Whenever the class gets loaded on initialization, so here we are getting error, so click here quick fix and implement interface on init. So it's going to override the method ng on init. So whenever we load this employee component, it enters into on initialization, it's going to enter into this method ng on init. Now in this on init method, what we are going to do is here we are going to say like this. Understand carefully. I'm creating one employees array, a empty array. Then in the constructor, we are going with a property HTTP client service. It's of type HTTP client service. So here we have created the class now HTTP client service to invoke this method. So we are creating object of HTTP client service here. We are creating object of what? HTTP client service, which is of type HTTP client service. Then now import this employee also. Just to say keep mouse pointer on error and say quick fix and update import. Okay, it will take care of the respective imports here. Now on initialization, what we want to do is just say this dot HTTP client service. Which method we have to call? Get employees. Which method we have to call here? Get employees. So we are invoking this method of HTTP client service class. That only we are doing here. And what this method is going to do? It's going to connect to our REST API and returns the list of employees. So that we have to collect into this employees. So for that, we have to say HTTP client service dot get employees dot subscribe and say here response equal to response is what response we have to say this dot employees equal to response. That's it. This dot employees equal to response. Okay, so what you are doing by using HTTP client service, we are calling get employees. So whatever the list of records it is returning, that is the response we are getting. So we have to call the method subscribe to invoke that subscribe response. What is the response we are getting from this service? That response we are storing into what here? Employees array. We are storing into employees array. Now this employees array holds the data which contains all the list of employee records. So this completes our employee component. Now we have to present it. How to present? Go to this employee component.html. Here we want to show the data in tabular format. So create a table. Then tbody, create a table row, table heading. In the first heading, employee ID, employee name, designation, and salary. These are table headings. These are our table headings. Now create one more row. Now we have to traverse your employee array. How to traverse? By using the Angular directive ngFor equal to let employee of employees. let employee of employees. Now display the data. In every row, we have to display our employee ID, name, designation, and salary like this. How to take the data? Employee dot employee ID. We are applying data binding. Then similar way, go with the other fields here, other properties like name, designation, and salary. So just to displaying the data, we are just traversing this employees array and displaying the data in tabular format. Displaying the data where? In tabular format. So this completes our presentation. Clear this part, all of you, the presentation part? No. Now the next step is we have to apply the routing now. So for that routing, we have to update app routing dot module dot ts file. App routing dot module dot ts file. So how to apply routing is go to this file. Already the file will be present. App routing dot module dot ts file. So here in this one, we have to add the routes here. So here you can see constant routes. Add the routes here. Just here in between these square brackets, say path. If it is empty path, the component what we want to load is employee component. If the path is empty, the component what we want to load is what here? Employee component. That's it. Just this piece of code. So whenever you make a request to Angular project, it should load employee component. That's the meaning of this. Now, the next step, build the project. Ngser. Then open browser and type the following URL. http://localhost:4200. Okay, so I'll be sharing complete programs, the Angular programs in app.zip file. Okay, so this contains all Angular programs. Now, let us build the project. Ngser. Now, open browser and type the URL localhost 4200. It's not showing. Let me inspect. It's not having inject here. Okay, so come to this service and we have to make it injectable. So how to make it injectable is by using this annotation @injectable and say here provider in root. Right, that's it. Just add this piece of code. Now see here, so we are getting all the records. So what are the records present in employee table that I'm able to pull out from database, and into your Spring Boot application, we have created one REST API, and that API we are accessing from Angular, and Angular is taking care of doing the presentation part. Got this, everyone? Very, very important one. You need to practice this. If you practice only, you can understand what is happening. No need to remember codes. No need to remember codes. Just understand what is happening. That's enough. Okay, right. So that's about Angular. And from next week, Monday, we are going to enter into project. We are going to develop one project. Okay, where I'll be showing all the CRUD operations, how to insert, how to update, how to delete, everything, complete application. Let us working next week. Okay, it may go with 4 to 5 classes for us. Okay, right. So thank you all and happy weekend. Thank you.